We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, May 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're watching News Generation. Today, we're joined by Park Ki-un.
Thanks for having me.
Happy Wednesday, and Kwon Ji-yeon.
Happy Hump Day.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. Let's start with some exciting news for sports fans in Korea. We might soon see local football stars Son Heung-min and Kim Min-jae facing off against each other. On Monday, Coupang Play, a Korean streaming platform, announced that it will invite Son's Tottenham Hotspur and Kim's Bayern Munich for its 2024 Coupang Play series in cooperation with Audi. This series features a collection of preseason matches with teams from European football leagues. The friendly match is scheduled to take place at the Seoul World Cup Stadium in Sangam-dong on August 3rd. Now, switching gears, you might have faced some inconveniences recently if you used the Korean online messenger KakaoTalk. The messenger's PC version went down for about an hour on Tuesday morning, preventing users from logging in and sending messages. Kakao said Tuesday's service disruption was caused by an error in its internal system. Now, this marks the third malfunction since last Monday. And in response, the Ministry of Science and ICT launched an on-site inspection of the company's data centers on the same day to investigate the causes of the repeated disruptions and find measures to prevent recurrence. Now, ending off, concerns are growing over a potential shortage of personnel in the Korean military. According to the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, the number of non-commissioned and commissioned officers discharged last year surged to 9,841, marking a 1.68-fold increase compared to 2013. Now, this is actually the first time the annual figure has passed the 9,000 mark after hovering at around 7,000 from 2015 to 2022. Specifically, the number of discharged officers who served for more than 5 years but less than 10, mostly comprising millennials and Gen Zs, jumped almost 30% from 2,999 in 2022 to 4,061 last year. And those who have left the military cited issues such as salary and allowance systems, welfare benefits like housing, and non-combat related duties as reasons for living. So here in the studio, Ji-yeon, could you first elaborate more on why these military officers left their positions, and what do you think should be done to address this issue?
Well, I do think that the working conditions, overall treatment and benefits could be the main reasons that the officers, the military soldiers, are leaving their positions. So the military should make efforts to recruit new personnel and improve their conditions. Without these kind of changes, the military's future readiness will be at risk, which is absolutely related to our safety and security. And it should be a position that the younger generation, the MZ generations, find it interesting and attractive. And in 15 or 20 years, my 2 sons will be enlisted, probably, and maybe they will pursue their career in the military, in the army, and like the father did back in the days as a Navy officer.
I see. I think you made a very good point because, in fact, having enough military personnel is directly related to our national security, which is a really big issue. So it's really important to look into what these young military officers are wanting. Now, what are your thoughts on this, Kyun?
I think the main reason would have to be the low wage level that has not been matching high inflation, which is a very important issue, especially for our MZers, and this includes me as well, because I mean, if my wage is not matching the high inflation, obviously I'll feel very discouraged to work anywhere. And it could also be, a shift in occupation preference as well. But like what Ji-yeon said, I mean, these workers, they're working for our country's security and defense, which will always be an important factor here in the Korean Peninsula. And we need to really respect them and consider them in a different way as well. However, I think the hierarchy within the military base has definitely changed compared to our parents' generation, where I think enlisted soldiers have more say within the base, and their level of increased wage is almost matching, the staff sergeants. So it is very understandable why the officers feel very discriminated against, and hence this could be another reason for them resigning at an earlier age.
Right, and I think that this definitely needs more discussions from young military officers and from the military itself, because actually increasing a wage is not that easy. So we definitely need more candid discussions to make sure that we have like a full military staff here in Korea. And that was our news feed for this Wednesday. So moving on to our main discussion of the day, today we're going to talk about one of the most pressing issues, not only here in Korea, but also in many countries around the world. And that is fewer births leading to a shrinking population. And to actually tackle this, one company in Seoul, Korea recently introduced a unique strategy aimed at encouraging its employees to have children. Let's take a look at the screen first to find out.
In February, one Korean company got lots of attention for its baby incentives. Buyong Group, a construction firm based in Seoul, announced it's going to offer its employees, both men and women, an incentive of 100 million Korean won, which is around $73,000 for each child they have. For all the employees who had babies since 2021, who had a total of 70 children, it promised to also give them 100 million won per child too. Could such a bonus help defuse Korea's demographic time bomb?
Right, so latest data actually shows that South Korea indeed has the world's lowest fertility rate, which refers to the average number of children a woman will have in her lifetime. Now, this figure dropped to 0.72 last year, down from 0.78 in 2022, actually with total births hitting a new low of 230,000. In response, President Yoon Suk-yeol has declared the country's low birth rate a national emergency and even said he plans to create a new ministry to tackle this crisis. And one of the ways the government is seeking to solve this problem is offering a huge amount of childbirth incentives, similar to what we've seen in the VCR that was presented by Buyong Group, right, Kyun?
Correct. A recent online survey conducted by Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission asked citizens whether government incentives would encourage more childbirth. So to give our viewers a clearer understanding, let's take a look at the screen. Around 13,000 people took the survey, and when asked the question, would government incentive encourage you to give birth to a child, 63% said yes, while 37% said no. Also, when asked that it will require around 23 trillion won per year, or $16.8 billion as fiscal investment, 63.59% responded quite positively to the government's spending in this particular area. So this survey was conducted to find out how people actually think of the effectiveness of policies tackling the low birth rate, as previous measures did not quite satisfy the public sentiment, and they were actually criticized for not being able to make big, noticeable improvements.
Adding on what you said about like previous measures, this is not the first time that the government is actually suggesting to give out cash incentives to parents, but it is the first time the government is promised to give a huge amount. So by a substantial amount of baby bonus, Jian, how much is the government willing to offer to these new parents?
A lot, in fact. Well, as you mentioned, South Korean government has decided, came up with the idea of providing a large one-off incentive support in order to boost the record low birth rate in South Korea. So for the first child, a 100 million won cash initiative, cash incentive, which is roughly $72,500. And for the second child, it is 200 million won, roughly about $147,000. Well, this approach gained attention after Buyong Group, a private company that you have seen in the VCR. They said in February that they will provide all of the employees, if they deliver a baby, 100 million won cash to all of the employees if they deliver a baby. And they did that. They started this in order to increase the birth rate in this country. And this initiative caused quite a buzz in the society.
And I think the reason why this caused a buzz, not only here in Korea, but around the world and the other countries, is because I think economic factors have become significant obstacles in the younger generation's decision to have children, because everything is getting so expensive these days. But actually, opinions are divided on whether this kind of financial incentive will be effective. So here in the studio, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts? Are you willing to have a baby if you get a 100 million Korean won bonus from the government?
To be honest, I haven't made 1 million won yet, 100 million won in my life yet, but if the government's going to give me money, I'll be very happy to receive it. But obviously, I'm not married, so I have to take that first step first. Anyway, money could be one solution to increase birth rates alongside many other methods. And many young parents feel a financial burden raising a child here in Korea, especially in Seoul.
Right.
But in the past, the father being the only breadwinner was sufficient to support a family of 2 children or even more.
Right.
But nowadays, it's not so common
Right.
where mothers also need to work, like Juyeon, sorry. But sadly, it's difficult for women to go back to work and continue their careers due to fierce competition and, of course, gender inequality in the workforce. So on the surface, I think receiving incentives for having a child can alleviate the immediate financial burden the parents have to bear, as there were many comments through the survey where people expressed that this is a right step towards having more children. But personally, I think in the long run, there needs to be an overall balance of taking other important factors into play, considering, and by creating more child-friendly environments. So I think more people feel actually encouraged to get married first and then have at least 1, but 2. Like every other, I have a brother too. So back in the day, it was so common to have 2 children or even more. But nowadays, it's like
1 child.
1 is enough, or not
even
at all.
I
Just have a
know.
pet. So things have changed, but we need to tackle this issue in a more, I guess, promising and a bit more realistic about this.
Right. So providing like economic incentives will help in the short term to like alleviate financial burdens of these parents. But as Kyu mentioned, there are other concerns that potential parents are having when they are thinking of having a child or not. For example, career breaks and also whether they have enough childcare facilities. So what are your thoughts on this, Jin, as you are a mother of 2 children?
Yes, I am. I do agree with Kyun's opinion. Offering cash incentives might motivate some parents, some people to deliver a baby, but it's not a comprehensive solution in order to boost up these low record of the birth rate. Having children is a long-term commitment which involves physical, emotional and financial investment, which is beyond the cash support.
Right.
Offering cash support is, yes, it is quite helpful. It is useful indeed, but it should be combined with other policies related to childcare, such as affordable housing, a work-life balance, and also the quality childcare, including the job security, should be all combined with these new policies. And personally, I wouldn't have my 3rd child just because of the cash support from the government, because delivering a baby, having a baby and raising a baby is quite a challenge indeed, and you've got to face lots of obstacles as well. But the South Korean government, think about this, the government has already provided various financial support in various forms, such as childcare allowances, family benefit, childcare support. However, the expenses related to childcare have risen at the same
they're
time.
all getting more expensive.
I know, think about it. For example, if you look at 산후조리원 or the postnatal care facilities in Korea, the cost of those facilities have risen altogether. And in daycare centers or in nursery schools, they started these fee-based new programs.
Really?
These kind of programs have emerged. So I wonder what will increase, what will go up if the government provides this money to the parents. Yes.
Right, definitely a lot more to think about besides financial incentives as well. Now, expanding on our discussion, what are some other arguments that the public is giving out for or against this policy?
So on the other hand, many are against this policy as they think government money should be spent on different areas, like responding to disappearing rural areas, and of course, providing more incentives for housing as well to make it a bit more affordable for, newlyweds to live in. And also, some even fear that parents will only have a child just to receive the money, the cash, and abandon the child, which is obviously not the direction that the government is thinking of. And if more money is given having a 2nd child, I think some parents, not everyone obviously, may abuse the system even more. So, and I think, Juyeon is definitely an expert in this area, having 2 children, lovely sons. But I think having a child doesn't solely equal money. It is also about responsibility, commitment, and unconditional love that all play together as a whole. So I think, money is very important, but before you have the money, you need to meet the right person. You need to have a proper house to live in to even raise a child. And and all those other factors, you know, like facility, of course we need them, but as a parent, we need to feel the need to have a child. And once you have a child, that's when the new journey begins, and you have to be fully committed until they're fully grown, able to go out into the world and start making money out of all the investment that a parent has made.
Right. So briefly, is there anything that you'd like to add, Jim?
Well, I do believe that infrastructure is more important than one-time cash support. We need to create an environment that people would like to have a baby and raise children here in this country. You know, it's not just having a baby. We've got to raise them. We've got to take care of them. It's kind of a long-term project that you've got to handle in. And while money could be the reason that people are not having babies, but it's not the only reason, like Yoon has mentioned. Issues like childcare and career breaks are also significant. And if you look at the research by the Korea Institute of Local Finance, it shows that expanding infrastructure is over 3 times more effective than cash support. And let's look at the comments about the government's plan, the policy that you mentioned. Don't waste our taxed money, from one opinion, and create an environment where people can have and want to have children. And the last comment was quite interesting. Past laws allowing single women to use sperm banks.
A lot of various opinions.
Yes,
interesting
indeed.
opinions. So we've heard from both of our panelists, but now we're also going to listen to our viewers how big of a childbirth incentive would motivate them to start a family. And here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, Tasmia says, on a monthly basis, I believe 2.4 million Korean won or $1,800 is enough for food costs, medical costs, household costs, etc. So after giving birth, the parents can be rest assured. Kite says, I think it depends on where you live. For us, it would require at least $10,000 in savings after paying for all of the related expenses. And Taras Bell says it depends. As prices go up in the US, it would require at least $1,700 to $1,800 a month for an infant. And that means the couple would each have to make around $60 to $70 annually. So we've looked at various comments from our viewers around the world. Back here in Korea, the idea of the government giving out a huge amount of baby bonuses is quite new. So the big question once again is, are there any successful examples? So to find out, we're bringing in an expert to our discussion. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. So today we're joined by Dr. Robert Prince, who works as an obstetric anesthesiologist in the United States. Welcome, Dr. Prince, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great, lovely to have you. So our first question is, have there been any other countries where the government has given out like big, huge amount of cash subsidies to encourage people to have children?
Well, there are a number of different avenues the countries have taken over the last decade. And so far, the fertility rates keep dropping in those countries. So it's unclear whether the problem is that they just didn't offer enough money or benefits, or if money is not going to work at all. I mean, the assumption is that women aren't having children because they can't afford it. But I'd like to give you a little food for thought. Where are the countries where the fertility rates are the highest? Where women on average are having 6 children. Let me tell you where that is. That's in sub-Saharan Africa. That's in Chad, Nigeria. These women are desperately poor, and they have the highest fertility rates in the world. So you want to be careful a little bit about what you're wishing for. If your assumption is that money is going to make the difference, why are these very poor women having so many children? So I think it's much deeper than that. It's not just about the money. I think what it's really about is that Korea, more than many countries, is a victim of its own success. So you guys have been an economic powerhouse going from rags to riches in the last 50 years, but you're sort of like an Olympic swimmer who's 17 years old. If you look in their background, you're going to find maybe some things were missed, like prom and things like that, right? So I think the same thing is true. Korea has done a fantastic job at almost everything, but in that competitive environment, women in Korea, who are amongst the most educated in the world, are simply making a choice not to have children or a choice to have later so they have fewer children. And it's a choice that's not available to women in Nigeria. They can't have a fantastic career or make that choice. They don't even have access to birth control many times. So the fact that women have so much choice is a great thing. It's just that they're choosing not to have children, which isn't such a great thing. And that's why I say, to some extent, Korea is a victim of its own success.
Dr. Prince, do you believe baby bonuses will help boost Korea's low birth rate?
Well, so far, money has not worked because there is, as has already been discussed, there's a lot more to having a child. If you're working, 80 hours a week, and if you think that maybe your husband is going to be a little less likely to help you with housework and child rearing than you would hope, then, it's a big time commitment. And you may just not have enough time in your life to raise 2 children well and have a career. And so it becomes a very logical decision to not have, say, a second child. And remember, this is not just a Korean problem. This is throughout the entire developed world. Even in the United States, we've had falling fertility rates for decades, and we just had the lowest fertility rate this year in 100 years. So while our fertility rate is better than yours, it's still falling here. So it's not it's a worldwide problem of women being empowered to make a choice, and making a choice that, from a long-term perspective, doesn't look great. But they're not illogical choices. It's a wonderful thing that they're able to make that choices. I'm a father of 4 girls, and it looks like all of them aren't going to start having kids until they're in their 30s. Right? So in my own family, I have this issue.
Right. Dr. Prince, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but thank you so much for your valuable insights today. We really appreciate it.
Nice being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So last but not least, do one of you guys want to talk about what kind of measures the government could do to boost our childbirth rate?
I think, can I just
Sure.
Before I go, I think I have to mention this. Reducing excessive competition in education will definitely ease the burden on mothers and fathers. So I think this is kind of a thing that the government or the society has to, have to do all together. Yes.
Great. A very short and sweet answer. Hope we could see Korea's birth rate going up and in other parts around the world. And until then, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Park Ki-eun.
Always a pleasure.
And Kwon Ji-yeon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.